all Vedic knowledge and the spiritual master of the three worlds, reached the pilgrimage site of Badrigashram and engaged himself there in trance to satisfy the Lord, without a translation to purport. Lord Sri Krishna is actually the spiritual master of the three worlds, and he is the original source of all Vedic knowledge. It is very difficult, however, to understand the personal features of the Absolute Truth, even from the Vedas. His personal instructions are needed in order to understand the personality of Godhead and the Supreme Absolute Truth. Bhagavad Gita is the evidence of such transcendental knowledge and gist. One cannot know the Supreme Lord unless one is graced by the Lord himself. Lord Krishna exhibited this specific mercy towards Arjuna and Uddhava while he was in the material world. Undoubtedly, Bhagavad Gita was spoken by the Lord on the battlefield of Kurukshetra just to encourage Arjuna to fight. And yet to complete the transcendental knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, the Lord instructed Uddhava. The Lord wanted Uddhava to fulfill his mission and disseminate knowledge which he had not spoken even in the Bhagavad Gita. Persons who are attached to the words of the Vedas may also know from this verse that the Lord is the source of all Vedic knowledge. One who is unable to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead by going through the pages of the Vedas may take shelter of one of the Lord's devotees, such as Uddhava, in order to advance further in knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Brahma Samhita says that it is very difficult to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead from the Vedas, but he is easily understood from a pure devotee like Uddhava. Taking mercy on the great sages who lived at Badrigashram, the Lord authorized Uddhava to speak on his behalf. Unless one has such authorization, one cannot understand or preach the devotional service of the Lord. While present on this earth, the Lord executed many uncommon activities, even traveling in space to bring down the Parijata from heaven and recovering the son of his teacher Sandipani Muni from the regions of death. Uddhava was certainly informed of the conditions of life on other planets, and all the sages were anxious to know of them, just as we are anxious to know about the planets in space. Uddhava was particularly deputed to carry a message to Badrigashram, not only to the sages of that place of pilgrimage, but also to the Narayan deities. Such a message must have been more confidential than the knowledge described in the pages of the Vedas. The Lord is undoubtedly the source of all knowledge, and the messages dispatched through Uddhava to Narayan and other sages were also part of the Vedic knowledge. But they were more confidential and could be sent or understood only through such a pure devotee as Uddhava. Since such confidential knowledge was known only to the Lord and Uddhava, it is said that Uddhava was as good as the Lord himself. Every living entity can, like Uddhava, also become a confidential messenger on the same level as the Lord, provided he becomes confidential himself by dint of loving devotional service. Such confidential knowledge is entrusted, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, only to pure devotees like Uddhava and Arjuna, and one has to learn the mystery through them, not otherwise. One cannot understand Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam without the help of such confidential devotees of the Lord. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, that confidential message must have concerned the mystery of his departure and the annihilation of his dynasty after the end of his appearance in the mundane world for 100 years. Everyone must have been very anxious to know about the mystery of the annihilation of the Yadu dynasty, and that message must have been explained by the Lord to Uddhava and dispatched to Badrigashram for the information of Narayan and other pure devotees of the Lord. Evam Triloka Guruna Sandishta Shabda Yonina Parashrama Padhayashramam Asajja Purimije Samadhina. Sukadeva Goswami informed the king that Uddhava, being thus instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the source of all Vedic knowledge and the spiritual master of the three worlds, reached the pilgrimage site of Badrigashram and engaged himself there in trance to satisfy the Lord. So, in the meantime, we should try to make this work for the other. Okay. Just give it down to a dull roar. Dull roar. creature like Krishna. Incredible things start happening. It's possible. That's the nature of the Kali Yuga. It's impossible. You want to talk about Krishna? You want to make business? It's very easy. Giving this is very easy. Teaching about Krishna, very good. So, this very nice. Evam Triloka Guruna. Triloka refers to the three planetary systems, upper, middle, lower, referring to the quality of the planetary system of consciousness, the living entities there, being more or less atheistic. The lower you go, the more atheistic the system is. And it is also interesting in the Bhagavatam when we speak of the subterranean heavenly planets. We are speaking of planets that are subterranean, that are within other planets. They are like caverns. Yet there, things are very heavenly in a sense. But the difference is that there is no connection with the Supreme Personality of God. It is atheistic. Atheistic planet, atheistic arrangements. This is also, you can see today, that they are trying to create the lower planets here, in the middle planet. They're trying to make a place where there's no connection with the Supreme Lord. That is their whole goal, especially these communists. Their whole business is just to make a place where there's no God, and especially no Harikesa Swami. So they are trying to create the kingdom of God without God. They're trying to make a very beautiful, wonderful place where everybody's very satisfied, without the Supreme Person at all. They want to just have advancement of life. They want to have nice machines. They want to have wonderful technology. But they don't want to have the Supreme Person. And unfortunately, there are so many problems because of that. So, now why is there a problem? Because they do not have any spiritual knowledge. Because, it's stated here, Evam Triloka Guruna Krishna, he is the spiritual master of all the three worlds. Even in the lower planetary systems, where they are trying to forget about Krishna, they cannot, because Krishna doesn't let them. Just like in the lower planetary system, you have Bali Maharaj there, Prahlad Maharaj there. These two Mahajans, their preaching domain is the lower planetary system. So with two Mahajans like that preaching Krishna consciousness, obviously, everybody's going to hear about it. It's like all of Prahlad Maharaj's friends, they all heard about it. So, even you want to go to a place to completely forget about Krishna, as long as you have some kind of human form, you have to hear about Krishna. Because Krishna is the most famous person in the human society. You cannot avoid Krishna. If you actually want to avoid Krishna, then you have to take birth as some worm or a tree or something like that. Then you can actually avoid Krishna. Of course, you cannot avoid Krishna either, because Krishna is the source of life for these things. Super Soul is always there. But you can't forget about Krishna. You can fully forget. Therefore, those who are very much atheistic and really want to forget about Krishna, he gives them the facility of taking birth in these lowest species. They can just become flies or bugs or worms and just forget Krishna completely. Because everywhere there is talk about Krishna, because everywhere there is Krishna's devotees. And even when it is explained, Swaga Pavaga Nalakeshiva Abhituyashadachana, the devotee does not care where he goes, either to the heavenly planets or the lowest planets, because he sees everything differently. He sees everything as the same. sees everything is the same being that it is all material, then what is the difference? Where you are, some nice material place or some not very nice material place. You're always having to suffer the pangs of this material world one way or another. Therefore, a devotee does not mind where he is. Does not mind where he is. Therefore it is stated, Svaga Bhavaga Narakeshu. Narayana Prasave Natakastana Bhuti. The devotees of Narayan, they are seeing Narayan everywhere. They are seeing Narayan everywhere. Therefore, for them, there is no such consideration as better or worse. And Lord Chaitanya also said that. All these ideas, this is auspicious, that is inauspicious. This is good, that is bad. This is all manana. Means it is a concoction of the mind. There are so many who are concocting principles on the mental platform. They say this thing is good, this thing is bad. We also find that amongst devotees. Sometimes devotees say, this service is good, this service is bad. All service is service. But it's a question of saying, I want to do this, I don't want to do that. That is all. Because the service itself is neither good nor bad. The service is transcendental. Being transcendental is actually quite good for everybody. You need a chair? You need a chair. He needs a chair. Here's the bed back. Here's a chair. Okay, that's you guys. One chair. One chair. So, the Supreme Personality of Godhead certainly makes no distinctions like that. That this is good, this is bad. And for Krishna, everything is his energy. And for the pure devotee of Krishna, everything is also Krishna's energy. He does not see something as good or bad. Just like there's a very famous pastime of Prabhupada. He was walking in the Bowery in New York City. Horrible, terrible place. Terrible, horrible place. You may think Berlin is bad. New York City was like Berlin 50 years ago. You can imagine today. So, there's Prabhupada, great sadhu from India, simply absorbed in Krishna, walking down the street of the Bowery where all of the bones are lying there, and papers and dirt, every conceivable kind of nasty thing on the street. And then the devotee was asking Prabhupada, is all of this dirt and filth and horrible paper everywhere disturbing? Prabhupada said, no, it's ecstatic. All Krishna's energy everywhere you can see. When I'm giving class, don't connect the classes. Right? It's all Krishna's energy. Everywhere pure devotee sees Krishna's energy. Therefore, for him, that place, being Krishna's energy, always reminds him of Krishna. And another time in Bombay, he gave a very nice example. But he was explaining that because some of the people had a hard time understanding how a very rotten place can be a nice place. So Prabhupada said, just like you have a child, you always think of this child, mother especially, father thinks of the child. And let us say the shoes of the child are seen somewhere, laying somewhere. Then immediately the parent will remember the child. The shoes. Probably everybody understands. The shoes. Immediately remember the child. So there are so many things in this world, all of this rotten, nasty things everywhere. But still, it is Krishna's energy. It's Krishna's energy manifesting in the lower modes of nature. But the pure devotee does not see, this is Krishna's energy manifesting in the lower modes of nature. It is inferior. No, in fact, he sees, how powerful that energy is. That it's keeping everybody in illusion. It's so strong, but everybody's an illusion. Even big scholars and big theologians, and everybody's an illusion. Therefore, how powerful is that lower energy? It's fantastic. Therefore, that even the lower modes of nature, even the mode of ignorance, makes him very much remember Krishna. It's like like Vyasa-puja, I went to the zoo once. Around one place. So in this zoo there was one very big, ugly, stinking monkey. And all we could talk about is how Krishna has created such a ignorant body. So moochy. Totally ignorant. No consideration of the higher. How powerful is Krishna's energy? And this monkey was convinced it was a monkey. There was no other consideration. I'm a monkey, sure. Eating anything, putting their fingers anywhere and then eating. It's completely unbelievable monkey. So, even you see something like that, you can immediately remember Krishna. You see just how Krishna has put different living entities in these different species of life, just so that they can get their just so they can get their can you please connect me? Hare Krishna. Just so they can get their different forms of karma fulfilled. So Krishna is so merciful. He keeps giving everybody just what they deserve. Even the lower planets. He gives them no anything that will remind them of God. You know, in the lower planets, there's no nice sunshine, stars, and the moon, and beautiful hills and valleys and trees. It's all caverns. You don't have any of these things. It's just dug out of the ground, and then there's a big cave. I mean, they may have very nice places in there, but it doesn't remind you of Krishna. It doesn't remind, just like when you go into these big modern buildings nowadays, and it's just all this cement. They think it's very, very beautiful. They take some wood and they nail it together, then they put all the concrete on top of it, and they just take the wood away. So you can see the form of the concrete just seeps between the wood. And this is supposed to be very artistic. So this is just like the modern buildings. And they don't have windows anymore, some of them. You walk in and it's all artificial light. And then you put a lot of mirrors up. It's all artificial light. They don't want to see the sun. They want to control the atmosphere. Very carefully. Condition everything. You have vitamin lights in there, very healthy for you. This is a fact. So, in these lower places also, the Krishna's energy, they don't want to see it as much as possible. They don't want the natural things. Therefore, the light comes from the jewel on the head of the serpents. There's some very big nagas there, and the light comes from the head of their jewel, the jewel on their head. Just so they can forget Krishna. You can see, the whole modern society is trying to create an atmosphere which is just like the lower planets and forget Krishna. But they're always spoiled because there's always Prahlad Maharaj, Kali Maharaj, and their devotees and associates who are constantly preaching Krishna consciousness, just like in the modern society. Just like in these communist countries. They're so eager to just simply make everything godless, atheistic, totally, completely devoid of any spiritual characteristics. But Krishna's devotees have snuck in and are ruining the whole place. In this way, they get very frustrated. You can understand. Because you cannot avoid Krishna. They say God is dead. It's like big personalities. They say God is dead. But God has said they are dead. Now look at them. Nietzsche said God is dead. And God said now Nietzsche is dead. Famous graffiti in America is always funny. In all of the bathrooms, I told them. All the bathrooms they have. God is dead, Nietzsche. And the next month, Nietzsche is dead, God. We all know you may be philosophy. God is dead, but God will show you how dead He is when He kills you. So this idea to try to avoid Krishna is not possible simply from the point of view that Krishna is the spiritual master of these three worlds. This German must be so loud because I hear it blasting. So, again, another point. He is the source of all Vedic knowledge. Sandishta Shabdiyoniya. It is stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and that is a quote actually directly from the Veda. Veda pranito dharmo hi dharmas tad viparjaya. Veda narayana shakshat swayam bhoy pishushuma. This, all of the Veda emanates directly from the breathing of Narayan, and whatever emanates from the breathing of Narayan, that is truth. Anything else is a dharma. Anything else is illusion. It's not reality. Simply a temporary philosophy. So anything that emanates from the Supreme Lord, the breathing of the Supreme Lord, that is all known as Veda. And that was taught to Brahma. Therefore, Krishna is the spiritual master of Brahma. Therefore, He's the spiritual master of the highest planetary system, Satyalok, Janalok, Mahalok, Kapalok. And the middle planet, the heavenly planets, we find, they are all surrendering to Lord Brahma. Therefore, they are in that line. Whenever there is a trouble or difficulty, they all surrender to Lord Brahma. Here on this planet, Krishna directly comes. Sometimes He directly speaks to Arjuna. But Arjuna, he was not a preacher. As he himself said in the Bhagavad Gita, I'm a soldier, I'm a fighter, I'm a householder. Krishna, he wanted to become a mendicant, but Krishna said it's not possible. Finally he admitted, yes, it's not possible. Therefore, Krishna knew, well, if I give this knowledge just to Arjuna, then he won't be able to give it out to others. And I want that this knowledge is given to others. Therefore, I also give it to Uddhava. Uddhava is my most confidential associate. You know, Uddhava, he looked just like Krishna. He looked exactly like Krishna. Sometimes you could not tell the difference. He also had a bluish, shana complexion, just like that new monsoon cloud. He also had beautiful lotus eyes. All of the gopis in Vrindavan were amazed when Uddhava went to deliver a message. She's always delivering messages for Krishna. He went to Vrindavan, delivered a message to the gopis because Krishna was feeling great separation from the gopis, and of course they were feeling great separation from Krishna, so Krishna wrote a letter to them. But his hand was shaking so much, out of emotion, he could not properly write it, so Uddhava just read it to them, because he knew if they saw that letter, they would just faint it away and maybe lose their lives. So better I just read it to them, so they will not become so disturbed. So he was very confidentially, he brought that most confidential message of Krishna. It was so confidential that Uddhava thought better he wouldn't even show it to them. He just told them. So what a confidential messenger is Uddhava. So at the end of Krishna's pastime, certainly it makes sense that when Krishna was in his four-armed Narayan form, that also makes sense because in the four-armed form of Narayan, Krishna, all of the Vedas come. Veda pranito dharmo. Veda Narayana shakshat comes from Narayan. All this Vedic knowledge. So Krishna personally spoke Bhagavad Gita. He wanted to give more instructions to Uddhava. So just before he was about to leave the planet, he assumed the form of Narayan again. Because Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. There's no question of Krishna leaving Vrindavan. So Krishna always stays in Vrindavan. So therefore Narayan, he was going back to the spiritual world. Krishna was staying. He doesn't leave. So that Narayan was sitting under a tree, and there he was very beautiful. He was very beautiful, very beautiful complexion, very beautifully dressed, beautiful power, just beaming and smiling, glancing upon Uddhava and Maitreya Muni. And he was speaking to Uddhava this confidential Uddhava Gita it's called. You will find this in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Maybe someday coming. And one can here this very confidential instruction Krishna gave to Uddhava. And he also gave him messages, very confidential messages, to bring to the Himalaya, to the great sages, Narayana and Rishi, constantly meditating there in the Harikesa Swami with the other great sages. We have even heard that you can still go there if you are a very, very qualified personality. And they are a transcendentally situated place. You cannot go there by helicopter or anything like that. You'll never find it. But this place, Uddhava went there. Uddhava went there, and we find no description of it being difficult for Uddhava to go there. It's quite simply this way. And he gave a message to Narayana Rishi, who's an incarnation of the Supreme Lord himself. Can you imagine that? The Supreme Lord is sending a message to himself? Through Uddhava? But actually Krishna, of course, that statement is also tinged with Mayava. You cannot actually say Krishna is just sending a message to himself. Therefore, which you can say, these are emanations from Krishna. They are incarnations, they're all emanations because they're all one. They're all the same person. And also, all these living entities, they're also all the same person. All the same personality. But no, Krishna, when he incarnates, although those incarnations, they are of a different quality because they have the quantity of power, potency of Krishna. They have that quantity of potency. Therefore, they are Krishna. Of course, the living entities, they are also Krishna. But the difference is the living entity, you and I, the jivas, are very tiny. Very tiny. But the incarnations of the Supreme Lord, they are plenary portions. They have the power, the potency of the Supreme Personality of God. They have the full potency of the Supreme Lord. They have all these powers, just 8 Maha-siddhis, great mystic powers. They have unlimited potency. They can do whatever they want. But the living entities cannot. Therefore, that quantitative difference shows the difference right there. But we can break down the forms of the Supreme Lord into different categories for scientific understanding. But the real difference is the quantity. So, Krishna, he has many different personalities for his enjoyment. Narayana is one. Therefore, Krishna wanted to send a message to Narayana. Krishna can also not let even his own expansions know something when he doesn't want. When Krishna doesn't want, he will arrange it that even his own expansions don't know something. And Goan may be wondering, why is he sending a message to Narayana Rishi? After all, Narayana Rishi is Krishna. So he can of course know everything. But no, Krishna doesn't want. Just like, and one may say, well, how is that? But we have the perfect example of Lord Balaram, did not even know that Krishna, Lord Brahma, had stolen away all the calves and the boys. And that Krishna had expanded into each one of these calves and boys. Lord Brahma didn't know that. Lord Balaram did not know that happened. Lord Balaram, who's Krishna's older brother, the first expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, did not know. And when he realized he did not know, he all of a sudden, about 4 days before the end of 1 year's time, he all of a sudden realized, wait a minute, there's something going on here. How is it? I don't know. I know everything. But if I don't know, that means Krishna is keeping it from me. So Krishna must be doing something. And then he realized. Krishna allowed him to realize that. So therefore, it is not unusual that Krishna can even use Uddhava to send a message. Why? Because Uddhava is not ordinary jiva. He's not an ordinary jiva like all of us. He is certainly a very, very special person. It is described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Such persons like Uddhava, they're called the Shakti Tattva. They are directly the energy of the Supreme Personality of God in Himself. Therefore, they are not very much special persons. Uddhava, very special personality. Therefore it is easily said, He reached the pilgrimage site of Badrika Ashram and engaged himself there in trance to satisfy the Lord. After he gave his message, then his mission was finished. Because after all, he was only concerned for Krishna. Just like all pure devotees of the Lord, they're only concerned for Krishna. Especially those who are the associates of the Supreme. If they do not have any more association with Krishna, they see no reason whatsoever to stay on the planet. After Krishna left the planet, first of all, he caused most of his associates to leave first. But when Krishna left the planet, all the rest of his associates just disappeared very quickly. Because they saw no reason to stay whatsoever on this planet. Just all disappeared. All went back to wherever Krishna was going next. So Uddhava, when he finished giving the message, he told the great sages the message. Self back to the spiritual world in relation to Krishna. And we can all learn from this instruction. We can all learn from this instruction. So, Bhagavad Gita, in many places, requires or encourages the living entity to attain the state of trance. Also, it says, what bad thing if one does will cause him to never attain the state of trance. There's one verse, who knows it? Yes, Bhogaishvaya Prasaktanam Thea Pradikatam Vyavasayatmika Buddhi Samadhyao Navadiyate. Bhogaishvaya, Bhoga, this is the whole thing which will keep us from surrendering to the Supreme Personality of God, the Bhoga. It's like on earth, where we do not offer our food, it's called Bhoga. Bhoga. It's like we call one certain so-called Harikesa Swami Bhogavan. Being that he is the possessor of all sense enjoyments. So Bhoga refers to that which is not offered to Krishna. In other words, that which is separated from Krishna. That which you do not connect to Krishna through offering process. So, Aishwarya, unlimited opulence, whatever it is, of this material world, you are attached to that. Bhogaishwarya, attached to these opulences, which have nothing to do with Krishna whatsoever. Prasakta means to be very much attached. Pra, prefix, very much attached. This personality, consciousness, being very much attached simply to sense gratification. He will never attain this platform of samadhi. Samadhana. He will never attain. He will never be able to get himself, just like also one who acts whimsically. There's another verse in Bhagavad Gita which states, one who acts whimsically and does not follow the instructions in the Veda, or does not follow the instructions of the spiritual master, representative of Krishna, he doesn't attain happiness or peace with the Supreme Personality. How one can be completely away or lost of any bliss is that you simply don't follow Krishna or spiritual master. And there's no question of bliss, no question of happiness, no question of peace. Peace in this material world is a grand illusion. There will never be a peaceful situation. There never has been, there never will be. Peace is a complete illusion. So, Krishna, in many places he explains how one will never be peaceful if he does not render service to Krishna, offer everything to the Supreme Lord. Everything that you do, everything that you eat, all that you offer and give away, all austerities you perform, do it just for Krishna. Don't do it expecting results or material nature for oneself. It's like one gives charity. He gives charity just to be known as a great man. He'll give charity, but he'll also put a big sign up that says, I have given this charity. And everybody will see, yes, see how wonderful he has given this charity. This is charity in the mode of passion, which means it is done for getting fame and profit and distinction. So, just as that example is there, that is all aspects of life, fruits of activity, all different aspects. You do something just so others will think you are very great, others will praise you, or one will do something directly just for gaining sense gratification, just to get a direct fruitive result. Just like there are some persons who will never work for anything, but if they are hungry, immediately will go out and work just to fill their belly, and then they go. Renunciation. This is a famous Bhoga and Tyaga. Prabhupada gave one whole lecture once on this Bhoga and Tyaga in New York about 11 years ago. You remember? And you remember why he gave that lecture too. Bhoga and Tyaga. One will renounce in order to free himself from miserable condition. As soon as he's free, immediately he will enjoy again as much as possible. It's like the man who is sick, he will renounce eating certain foods. Although he actually wants to eat these foods, he will renounce eating those foods. Just so, when he gets better, he can eat them like anything. So this is the nature of the material world. Man will do a renunciation, a tyaga. He will get up early in the morning. To go to morning program in the temple, he will never get up. No materialistic man will ever do it. But to make money, he will get right up. Be completely alert. If you ask the same person to get up, to come to the temple, to make money, he will get right up. Because the fruit of desire depends on the motivation of the person. When one sees his own interests being fulfilled, he becomes very enthusiastic in performing activity. And when he doesn't see his interests being fulfilled, then he thinks, So this principle should be understood and also utilized by a devotee. Not that the devotee is thinking, yes, I want to enjoy different things, but the devotee is thinking, I have as my most important self-interest, that I must become Krishna. My most important self-interest is to somehow now develop loving relationship with the Supreme Personality Godhead before my next death. Before the next death. Because death can come at any moment. Before that death comes, I have to have developed my transcendental consciousness and relationship to the Supreme Personality. That's my most important self-interest. Therefore, whatever I do should be enthusiastically meant just to fulfill that interest. Therefore, we perform our devotional activities with great enthusiasm. We chant our rounds. With great enthusiasm, we chant our rounds. We just don't want to fall asleep while we're chanting. Isn't it? It's a horrible thing. And we can't tolerate not hearing the Hare Krishna mantra. Isn't it? We just can't tolerate it. Just when we don't hear what we are chanting, we just become so frustrated and so completely disturbed. Why I am not able to hear this chanting of Hare Krishna? Because it is my most important self-interest to do this. And why these nonsense things are coming in my head and making me absorbed in all these different so-called important activities. Get out, things! Out! See, we are so determined like that, isn't it? This is because we have as our own self-interest the most important thing there. We must become now Krishna conscious. Now! We've got to do it now! We cannot wait any longer. We must be very quick. I didn't want to say fast. One must be very quick to understand our self-interest. One who is quick to understand his own self-interest is actually the most intelligent amongst men. One who is very slow to understand. They call it manda. Manda sumanda matayo manda bhagi dhyupadi. That is the Kali Yuga, crying out by yourself, low intelligence, low duration of life. Why? Slow to understand what is important for me. But a devotee is quick to understand. He realizes, I must understand now, before anything can happen. Why do I think nothing can happen? Anything can happen. You even may arrange your life so perfectly that you shall be very healthy and everything perfect. And then Maya can just make some chick and you're immediately sick and dying. It's like, what is this now in America and other places? Some rascals, they're putting acid in eye wash and mouthwash. You know this? They go into the store with a needle and put sulfuric acid, hydrochloric acid in the eye wash. Then you put it in the cup and go, amazing, huh? Cyanide in the aspirin.
Needles in the trick-or-treat chocolates.
Needles in the trick-or-treat chocolates. You don't know what that is. And Halloween, and you don't know what that is. And one day they give out candy to all the kids. So a lot of people were putting nice arsenic in their candy. Cyanide in the candy. Needles in the candy. But the Swedish devotees should not think it will never happen there. They're already doing it in Coca-Cola and chocolate bars. Sweden. Of course, we don't drink Coca-Cola or chocolate bars. Therefore, we are not worried. Actually, we are very lucky because we do not eat anything from the stores. Why do you laugh so much? And therefore we are very protected because we do not eat things from the stores, and you will never have to, accidentally eat the cyanide. But you can just imagine, people are thinking everything is together. Their whole society is well organized, and we are making medical advancement and just improving everything so much. But now you go to the store to take a nice new aspirin and make your headache go away in a clinic. Very nice. So this is the social chaos that the Bhagavatam is predicting. Social chaos. People just go crazy. And when they go crazy, they become revengeful and frustrated and just figure out how to make everybody just go to hell along with them. So I'm in hell frustrated, therefore everyone's going to join. And the more people I can kill, the better. So they also stand around in the stores and they watch who buys these things. They watch who buys these things, and then they just go. The whole world is filled with such people. Some of them are doing it in the stores. Some of them are doing it in the hospitals, called doctors, with abortion. They're killing all kinds of babies in the womb. And others are in their laboratories, figuring out how to make nice bombs to blow our brains out. Or nice, even we don't even have to be very expert. You just take a couple of factories in the Roger bean and you can ruin all the trees. Acid rains and so many things. What is this? This is the modern man's mentality. Anyway, I'm frustrated. I don't care about anybody else. Let everything go completely. Who cares? I don't care. Nobody cares. This is the whole unfortunate condition of the modern man. Because he has no Krishna, he has nothing to look forward to. There's no hope for the man, modern man. Because the society has convinced him there's no God, there's no creation of life, you're just a pile of chemicals. Therefore, when you die, everything's finished. You just merge back into the chemicals again. So therefore, people think, then what's the use? Who cares about anything? If everybody's just chemicals, if I kill them, what's the problem? And if I die too, what's the difference? And anyway, everything's so frustrating, I can't stand it. Therefore, the whole society is going to go. The direct connection between this philosophy, so-called scientific philosophy, and the fact that the whole society is going to direct connection. It is an expressway to destruction. Therefore, devotees must be completely aloof from this whole Bhogaishvarya business. They must always be pushing themselves to engage more in Krishna service, pushing themselves to do more for the satisfaction of Krishna, pushing themselves to act under the instruction of the spiritual master. And then just a small group of devotees, because they have a goal to live for, can accomplish more than millions of people. Just see what Prabhupada is doing. Just one person, what he has done. What one person has done. Just like his books, just Prabhupada's books. You don't know, but Prabhupada's books are completely polluting the minds of millions of people in communist countries against nonsense, atheistic system. Just one person, completely turning over everything people have been working for years. Just one person, 1 year ago. Completely ruining millions of youth. Actually, millions of people know about Krishna. Even in Germany. Yes. Many, hundreds of thousands of people in this country know Krishna consciousness is right. I guarantee you. Hundreds of thousands, even in this rascal place. But they're just too attached to surrender. But they know they can no longer just accept everything blind. They know there's something more, and it's coming. They know. It's like the Communist Party just published an article. But first they had a meeting, a couple of years ago, where they said, these Hare Krishnas are our biggest enemies. They said that. And now they start publishing articles that say, watch out for them, because by the year 2000, they're going to be the major force on this planet. They never say that about the Christians. They never, and there's millions of them. They never say that about anybody. But they say that about just us. Us who are in this room. But why? Because it's not like that. Because it means Prabhupada's books everywhere. Just everywhere. Just everywhere. Everywhere. Prabhupada's books. Going everywhere. You can't imagine. They just go to somebody's hand on the street, and then he says, what's this horrible book? Gives it to somebody else, and he says, and they go everywhere, everywhere. Stealing in, sneaking in, finding their way. I'll bet you they're even going up to the leaders. I'm studying it very carefully. They're very worried. If these books get around, we're why? Because Prabhupada brought Krishna to the world. Isn't it amazing? It's like when you think of how Uddhava brought the message of Krishna, because he is as good as Krishna. You just see how Prabhupada brought Krishna to a world which was totally devoid of Krishna. Nowhere was there Krishna. Even in India it was just so diminished. Prabhupada brought Krishna to the Western world, and then he brought it back to India. And then everybody's saying, thank you, Srila Prabhupada, you saved us. In India, they have these articles, the saviors of Hinduism. Because otherwise, atheistic philosophy coming from the West was also going back to India. And now Prabhupada is alone, one man. Can you imagine that? Can you just imagine that? How powerful one devotee can be. What to speak if there are hundreds of devotees just giving out his books. And they can't stop it. And they know what we are doing. They know it very well, and they can't stop it. Because everybody wants these books, actually. You will find there are demons who don't want it, but everybody actually wants it. They may not know what it is. They'll think, oh, it's some Hare Krishna book. But if they read it, they say, hey, that's great. Whenever they read our books, they respect it. Even they say, I can't understand them. But at least they know it's a very high philosophy. There's no just blah, blah. They can understand. I'm too stupid to understand. They'll never say that. They'll say, I couldn't read it. But they respect it. They respect it. Therefore, our mission is, we're just going to print Prabhupada's books in every language of the world. That's all. And then we're going to distribute them. That's all. And in the meantime, we'll make a lot of devotees. And we'll have nice farm projects and many other things too. But the whole purpose is just to do that. That is the whole purpose. Our whole business is just to do that. We should just organize everything in such a way to free ourselves from financial burdens. Just do that. Nothing else. That is why all the Swedish devotees are in huge marathon. Just for that reason. Just so we finish up all these little debts here and there. And they are little debts, This amount of farm costs in Sweden might have paid for this temple. It's just a little debt. It's nothing. So get rid of it quickly. And then you just make sure every single person in that country, and in Norway, and in Denmark, and in Finland, has a complete set of Srila Prabhupada's books. That's all. That's all we are asking. Not very much. We don't even ask that they all surrender. We just simply ask they all have a full set of books. Crazy. Now is contract, where is it in? Is it in Norway it's going, this contract business? How many? Yogendra is distributing 4 or 5 sets a day. Not even a full day. Not a full day. 6 hours or so. Even less. I hope that registered with all of the German, Swiss, and Austrian. One person just started a program, doesn't even have a brochure. He simply shows them a couple of books, and he can sell sets. And then they pay over a long period of time. So we're going to start that too, all the other shows. They just sign a little piece of paper, and then they pay in the future, sell sets of books. Of course, in Germany, that already has a bad name from some other company. We'll have to do our printer. But we'll see what we can do about that. So the whole point is that is our mission, actually. We may be doing so many other things, but we should never forget what the mission is. That is why, in other places they may have everybody on Sankirtan, and they may sell a lot of books, but they don't make any books. And so it's just a question on which priority you set. Because Prabhupada personally told me to make his books, so therefore we have enormous amount of people just working on books. If you count all of the people who are working in the Hungarian, the Polish, the Yugoslavian, even Bulgarian, even Russian, you can imagine. And there's the German. Of course, the Germans. Where will the nectar come from? We're finished. No more books. They're all done. Where's the nectar going to come? You reprint? No, but the producer, they're just going to have to bash their head against the rocks. What else will they do? And now the Swedish, I have given them impossible task. 1 canto in 5 weeks. Everybody else's rate is 1 canto a year. But our rate is 1 canto in 5 weeks. So everybody has his opulences.
Srila Vishnupad's book production, King.
So our opulences produce books like that. You see, everybody is here. What happened to the bone? Oh, the battery's
Just been new one 10 minutes ago.
just put a new one in 10 minutes ago. Not possible.
Yeah, just before it's done. Okay.
Not possible, he said. So our business is stopped. Everybody is here to make glorification of this wretched self. But actually, you're doing it because we are the representative of Srila Prabhupada. So, the point is that you really want to glorify your spiritual master. Then, you just make it your life's mission to produce his book like any astrivically. And also, to be assist in Krishna's growth. That is included in this Buddha. Because Prabhupada said in America that the Godhead was the backbone of the society. Backbone. The backbone means that which everything is built around. Because these magazines are that which people become attracted to Krishna consciousness. It's not so intimidating as a book, especially our books, with their 1,000 pages or so. This huge monster book goes in your hand. You become a little intimidated sometimes. So, back to God, Be Assist or in Krishna's world is very, very innocent looking, pleasant picture on the cover. A lot of pictures. People get it quick and then they show up. In this way, it gradually builds up. So this full-time monthly production of our Be Assist, you realize it's the only monthly production of a magazine in ISKCON, besides the Bhakti Gandhi. And our magazines have a higher subscription circulation than any other magazine in the world. You didn't know that. Actually, we have quite a few opulences in the book publishing now. But nobody knows it. Because we don't like to make propaganda. It's not our business. Why don't you just switch to this other one? Let me fix things there. Just fix it something. So, we should become very much fixed in our mission, which is you just print these books like that and sell them like that. And we try not to become too much entangled otherwise. Just go and just distribute these books. Somehow everybody gets books, and then everything will come. Prabhupada always used to say, everything will come simply through the book distribution. And we have found this practically in our more confidential preaching missions, where we cannot have very opulent places, etc. Where we only have Prabhupada's books. Everything is happening because of those books. So we can tell you quite frankly, that is a definite way to spread Krishna consciousness to everybody. We do not even want that everybody shall become a devotee. After all, who has a temple big enough for everybody? No, this temple room is limited. It's quite big, but still it's limited. And Sweden hopefully will make a bigger one. But that will also fill up very soon. So, it is not that we wish that everybody shall become a devotee. We wouldn't mind if he comes and joins and wears sari dhoti. We don't mind. But the practical reality will be that Krishna consciousness will spread out in the varnashram. People will come around the areas. They will become more Krishna conscious, more Krishna conscious, more Krishna conscious. Gradually, it will just become more and more. It's like we had a wedding here the other week. And how many? 150 or so? Local people came. And we just had a wedding, put up a few signs. The word spread like wildfire. And everybody was here. And it was them. Old ladies were crying. They loved it. And when we had Lord Nishingadeva's installation, my Scandinavian devotees weren't here, but I was giving these blessings with Lord Nishingadeva's lotus seed. We'll also do that tonight. So, all the guests, they were also coming. So certainly they will not be classified as pure devotees, but if they just become favorable to Krishna, if they want to love Krishna or get the blessings of Krishna, they just get the blessings and mercy of the Supreme Lord. How much advancement there is? How much advancement there is? And then gradually they can also reduce their nasty habits, reducing the nasty habits. Right? They'll gradually drop away. These habits will drop away gradually. So, this is our very great mission. And we may do many things to expand this mission, but we just must keep ourselves fixed. What we are doing it for, what our whole goal is. Our whole goal is to give everybody Prabhupada. One way or another. And Prabhupada's whole goal is to give everybody Prabhupada. That's all. Very simple. We do not want to have to convince somebody how great we are. If you want to convince somebody how great you are, you'll have a hard time because he'll never accept it. I'm talking to Mr. Materialist. His whole goal of life is to show you how great he is. And then you are trying to show how great you are. Then it is a complete impossible thing. We just simply present Krishna. We just simply present Krishna. And because we present Krishna, then everything will be a success. So we just should become the message deliverer. That's the whole point of this business with Guru. He's the message deliverer. He gives the message of the Lord. Therefore, we also have to become the message deliverer. We just deliver the message of the Supreme Lord. What is the best way? You just deliver the books of Srila Prabhupada, because the way he gives that message is just right. And when there's an opportunity, tell people about Krishna. Jai Dakvatari Kaha Krishna Vidas. Tell them about Krishna. If you're qualified. If you know something about Krishna, you can tell them about Krishna. If you don't know anything about Krishna, be quiet. And learn about Krishna. And then what you learn,